Hello, this is Pranav from Aquatic Express, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the aquarium nitrogen cycle and how you guys can successfully cycle your first aquarium or any aquarium you're going to want to cycle. So first, let's talk about how the nitrogen cycle works in an aquarium. So first, we have three main stages. The first stage is ammonia production, and this is where ammonia is produced by your fish producing waste or any decaying plant matter or any uneaten food which your fish don't eat that just starts to rot and produce ammonia. And ammonia is extremely toxic towards all fish and all invertebrates, including like shrimp and even snails. So we have this first strain of bacteria called Nitrosonomus, and this bacteria strain called Nitrosonomus breaks down the ammonia and can basically converts it to a component which is less toxic called nitrite. Now, nitrite is still pretty toxic towards all your fish and invertebrates. So then we have this third bacteria strain called, we have the second bacteria strain called Nitrobacter, which breaks down the nitrite and converts it to nitrates. And essentially, nitrate is the byproduct of the cycle, and it is the least toxic of the three components, which means it is safe for your fish and invertebrates as long as the levels are not too high. So essentially, you want those levels like ideally below 20 ppm generally at most of your time, and most of the time, during most of the time. So let's now talk about how you guys can successfully cycle your first aquarium, or if this is your second aquarium and you want a better way to cycle it, we'll just talk about how you guys can essentially successfully cycle your first aquarium. So there's two main ways you can cycle your first aquarium. The first method is the fishless cycling, and I would recommend this if you are a beginner and this is your first time keeping an aquarium and you don't have any experience on aquariums and you want an easy and fast way to cycle your aquarium, and that's fishless cycling. So what I would recommend is I'm going to give you a method on how you can do fishless cycling, but it's not to the point where you're waiting so long, like you're just dumping some ammonia and you're just waiting for the bacteria to pop up on its own. So my suggestion is get some kind of ammonia solution or even some uneaten fish or even some fish food and just put some in your aquarium. So ideally an ammonia solution would be better just because it's easier to measure how much you're going to drop. So like I used Dr. Tim's ammonium chloride, and basically you're going to dose that up to 2 ppm. And what I would do is I would let that sit for a day and then make sure you test it and make sure that ammonia registers. That way, when the bacteria goes in, it has something to feed on. So then we essentially need a bacteria. We need some bacteria, and we can get this upon going by two ways. The first method is we can just buy bottled bacteria, so we can get something like Fritz Turbostar or Fritzzyme 7 or Seachem Stability, and all three of these products are great. I've used all three of them, and they will definitely help jumpstart your aquarium cycle and ensure it gets done a lot quicker than it would if you just waited for the bacteria to grow on its own. So you can add some bottled bacteria to your aquarium, or you can add some used filter media from another healthy tank, as long as the tank is healthy and has been disease free. Now, if you don't have multiple aquariums, then you may need to find like someone, or if you have a friend who has aquariums and they are willing to give you some used filter media, you could use that, and you just want to ensure that the used filter media came from a established aquarium which has been disease free for a while, just to ensure you're not introducing any kind of disease into your aquarium. So both of these things will help jumpstart your aquarium cycle by a whole lot. So that is fishless cycling. Now we're going to talk about fish in cycling. Now this method is more for advanced fish keepers, like maybe if you have already kept an aquarium and this is like your second aquarium you're setting up and you want to try like fish in cycling, you could totally do it that way. But I would do it this way. So what a lot of people will do is they will get like some fish and they will make those fish produce the ammonia, and they will just wait for the bacteria to produced on its own, and what ends up happening is those fish end up dying due to ammonia poisoning, nitrite poisoning, and it's just not good for them. So what I would recommend is maybe start with a few hardy fish, like a few zebra danios, like that's what I would do, like maybe 2 or 3 zebra danios at first, and I would feed them a little bit here and there, feed them a little bit, and they would produce the ammonia. But I would recommend you to add bacteria right away to that aquarium. So like I mentioned earlier, you can use bottled bacteria, any of the 3 products I mentioned earlier, so Seachem Stability, Fritz 7, or Fritz TurboStar, any of those 3 will work fine. You can also use used filter media again, and that's basically going to ensure that your cycle is jump started. So both of these methods will can work a lot quicker if you use the used filter media and the bottled beneficial bacteria. And another tip I have for you guys is if you really want to cycle this aquarium as fast as possible, I would add some live aquarium plants, just some few hardy live aquarium plants, to something like maybe Crypts or Anubias or Java Fern. And even though they're slow growing aquarium plants, they're going to help a little bit by absorbing some of that ammonia and nitrite and even nitrate later on. So you want to make sure you use the 3 tips I suggested for either one of these cycling. So if we're going to do fish in cycling, we want to make sure we just stock the tank very lightly. Like I mentioned earlier, like just get a few, 2 or 3 hardy fish maybe, so like 2 or 3 zebra danios or something like that. And you want to make sure you add some bottled bacteria or some used filter media and also some live plants, and that will essentially jumpstart your cycle by a whole lot. And that's just basically how you can cycle your aquarium. So those are the 2 main methods I discussed, and I discussed how the nitrogen cycle works and how we need to get it going. My recommendation is, if you are a beginner, like I mentioned earlier, go with the fishless cycling, but just use the tips I mentioned earlier. Now, if you are a bit more advanced fish keeper and this is your second or third tank, and you maybe want to try fish in cycling, I would definitely add that bottled bacteria, use filter media, and especially and even the live plants. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.